If you've ever been to northern Nebraska, then chances are pretty good you've been to the Sandhills. The open prairie features grass-covered sand dunes that dot the landscape for some 20,000 square miles. Given this unpredictable terrain, the wide array of wildlife here can literally hide out in the open as the dunes rise and fall to obscure what might be moving out on the plains. The Sandhills were long considered a desert with little potential until cattlemen discovered their value as rangeland back in the 1870s. The unstable sandy soil is unfit for cultivating many crops, so it has remained largely cattle country with over 500,000 head of beef cattle. Not surprisingly, the massive grass flats and irrigated crops also draw a world-class population of whitetails. It didn't take the ranchers of the Sandhills long to realize the added value of outfitting whitetail hunts. One such rancher is Scott Fink of Goose Creek Outfitters.
Yeah, I've been on this ranch for about 10 years now. Moved back from college and realized that the hunting was pretty good around here and thought that it's an opportunity I could take advantage of. And it just kind of went from there. Out here, we're so isolated that there's not a lot of pressure. I mean, there's a lot of acres where you can go 20 miles without seeing a road, and a lot of times hunters out here, you won't even see another hunter. This country out here, it's all cattle country. I mean, my family has been in this for 100 years now. I'm the 4th generation on this ranch, and you know, you kind of learn to live with the wildlife out here. I mean, you're out there feeding cattle daily, and you see them, you kind of learn their patterns. So I mean, being out here and living here with them, you really know where to hunt and kind of where to key in on them.
And keep in mind that in this part of Nebraska, you're not just limited to chasing whitetails.
So out here you got the opportunity for whitetail and mule deer, and you know, I get a lot of guys that come from the East Coast and never hunted mule deer, and they say that's what they want, but a big whitetail might walk by, and so they have the opportunity, they can take that whitetail if they want.
This hunt was set up in conjunction with 10-point crossbows, and Brad Fenson was only too happy to accept the invitation, as he has found success here before. As always, it starts with target practice.
I'd say that
big center block it is.
Well, we're here in Nebraska hunting deer with our 10-point. I actually have the Carbon Nitro RDX. I prefer the reverse limb technology whenever I'm in tight spots. When the limbs come back, I've got fewer opportunities to make contact with anything. So if you're in tight quarters like these box blinds, and here it's extremely windy and it's open country, so the box blinds work well, this is a really good option in terms of shooting safely and efficiently and being consistent every time.
A lot of people think that cattle will ruin your hunt, or a rancher drive by with a pickup or a tractor or something, and I mean the deer are used to it out here, so I mean cattle can ruin a hunt, but a lot of times if you just give it patience and we'll give it some time, they'll move on, and the deer will know that, and they'll come back out and do what they've normally done.
Destination Whitetail is brought to you by Browning Trail Cameras, by Thompson Center, America's master gun maker, by Analogics, protect your herd with the power of science, by SEVR Broadheads, straight through it, Alps Outdoors, exceed your expectations, and by Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. When we come back, Brad gets a good look at a Nebraska whitetail, and he's got a decision to make. When Destination Whitetail returns. Welcome back to Destination Whitetail. This week we're in the Sandhills of Nebraska, where the hunting is generally done at eye level.
You know, out here in the Sandhills, we don't have a lot of trees. I mean, and finding the perfect tree to hang a stand sometimes kind of difficult. So we use a lot of ground blinds. I mean, there's a lot of ranching out here where they bale up big round bales. And so we use bales as a blind, you know, set a pop-up blind at the end of bales, and that seems like that has been pretty successful for us.
You know, if you grew up in the 70s or 80s, you probably had long hair, but you probably remember the big speakers you had in your bedroom too. Speakers were built so that they'd grab that sound and help push it out and resonate it. Well, that's exactly what a box blind does. When you're hunting out of one of these, if you were to take your crossbow and set the stirrup on the windowsill or something else to try to get a brace to shoot, which we automatically want to do, it turns this whole box blind into a speaker that's going to resonate sound, noise towards the deer. And of course, we all know what happens when that does. Obviously, the deer are going to hear it and try to jump the string. Here's a little trick you want to try. The next time you open up a package of your arrows, take out one of the foam inserts. They fit perfectly on the stirrup of the 10-point, and when you set it down, it becomes a barrier to dampen the noise between you and your box blind. Now always make sure that it's not high enough that it's going to interfere with your broadhead or arrow flight. If you have a fixed blade, it might be too high. You can always move it off to one side. But it's a great way to dampen the sound so that a deer doesn't get a chance to jump your string.
For our whitetails, we look for, you know, the creek bottoms, river bottoms is kind of where they tend to hang out. But there is some big whitetails that kind of go up in the hills. But the mule deer tend to be more out in the big wide open hills.
We got a couple bucks coming from the east out of the creek bottom. One's a medium-sized buck, but the other one looks like he's got potentially might be a shooter. They're actually running in pretty quick. Here they come. Nice big 5x5 Nebraska whitetail.
It got dark on us real fast. It's starting to snow. But the nice thing about an Omni-Nock, it gives you the exact line of arrow flight. And look at this, great blood on the veins, on the shaft. She's lit up. She's helping us find our way to the Nebraska big boy. Yeah, it did its job.
When Destination Whitetail returns, Brad follows the blood trail, and a new hunter joins us in the blind with a crossbow.
Introducing the Burris Oracle Range-Finding Bow Sight. It automatically ranges your target out to 100 yards and instantly provides an LED aiming dot for the exact distance and angle of your shot. It is the most field-worthy range-compensating bow sight available today.
Welcome back to Destination Whitetail. where Brad Fenson is hot on the blood trail of a Nebraska buck he encountered earlier. All the signs are looking good.
It did its job. Yeah, this isn't a hard blood trail to follow, this one. That is awesome. Yep. That's bringing enough horsepower with your crossbow. Holy smokers, look at that. There he is, look at that. Wow. Stretched out. Stretched out. Oh. Look at that buck. Beautiful. Oh. There he is. Beautiful Nebraska 10. Got a little kicker growing here on the left. Nice and even. Great looking deer. The old 10-point Carbon Nitro RDX does it 2 years in a row in Nebraska. Boy, that worked awesome. It was a very entertaining hunt. It was more than just shooting a buck. We got to watch whitetail, behavioral patterns, rutting activity, the whole works. So just been a great time here. An awesome end to a great hunt.
So like the deer pressure around here, it seems like archery season and even into rifle season is not that bad. You know, sometimes into December when it gets colder, they're a little more predictable. You know, they're going to be going to a food source. And I mean, the key is low pressure, not pushing them and driving around. I mean, basically you just got to put your time in and sit there and not spook them.
Did we mention this is cattle country? Good old-fashioned cattle drives are commonplace here. Neighboring ranchers bring their beef parade down the road to greener pastures, and it's quite efficient. That is, until a few strays break loose. Of the day, these cattlemen help each other ensure the head count is the same as it was before the drive, which usually brings us up to supper time. Goose Creek offers all the hospitality one would expect after a long day in the field. Hunters like Brad Fenson also help raise the bar when they happen to be gourmet cooks.
Whitetail rouladen. We've taken those round steaks. We got mustard and onion and bacon and dill pickles in there.
Then it was back out in the blind with the next hunter looking to fill a tag.
We were right back here about 200 yards last night, and a lot of deer pouring through here, but we saw them coming out of the corner of this wood lot. So we left the blind that we had there last night, and we set this one up here. Got it brushed in good, but there was a lot of deer traffic coming through here, and they're crossing that fence over here. So based on what we've seen the last few nights, we thought this might be the right spot to get a blind. There's a lot more cover here, so we thought, you know, the blind would fit in here real nice. There's trails coming through here. They're coming from this cover area, and then they're heading out over here, going over the fence, and there's an alfalfa cut back here and a pivot that they like to feed in the evening. So this is a travel area that they're using to go from the bedding area over to the feeding area. And the way we got this set up here, it should be a great spot based on what we've seen. So with any luck, we might have some success.
One thing Gary came to realize was that all the deer that came out of cover to this fence paused to check out the field, and his strategy was firmly in place for the final day of the hunt.
Destination Whitetail is brought to you by Decked. Work smarter, play harder. Scent Killer Gold with Hunt Dry Plus technology. Apply it, dry it, and go hunt. By 10-Point Crossbow Technologies, there is no substitute. Get armed and deadly with Easton FMJ arrows. By Sig Sauer Electro Optics, never settle. And by Matthews Archery.
Back here in the Sandhills of Nebraska, Gary Cornum is set up for the last day in a spot he chose and a shot angle he selected after watching the deer behavior on the fence line. Now he's just waiting for the plan to come together.
Well, we've been hunting in here the last 2 nights, and we've seen the deer coming through, but just not where we were at. And we've been watching them down here at the end of this tree line, and they've been using this trail. We saw a real nice buck come through there just about sundown last night, and so we kind of took a look at the defense here and decided to call an audible. We picked this blind up and moved it down to the end of this fence line, and I'm hoping that they come through with that same trail at the same time of night. You know, it's hard to pattern deer, but with any luck, they're using this alfalfa field right over here. So we know they're coming in there every night. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to come through the same way. But based on what we've seen the last 2 nights, I think we've got a really good chance of getting a shot tonight. So we'll see how it goes. I think you smoked it. I did exactly what you said. Oh my gosh, that was badass.
Even though this buck was across a fence in the same pasture, Gary knew he was in position to make a clean shot.
Oh my gosh, what an adrenaline rush. That was unbelievable. Broadheads deployed. We have good blood on the arrow. Beaming white out, you can tell it looks like good blood. Oh yeah. Oh, check that out.
It's unique because I remember seeing this deal right here, that real thick blade.
Look at that shot.
Gary was using the new SEVR 2.1 Broadhead, which uses a rear deploy titanium head that he helped develop.
Look how big his neck is.
Oh yeah.
This new design performs a stretch cut to deliver larger than blade wounds for bigger blood trails and easy recovery. For Gary, the results from this field test are abundantly clear.
What a fun hunt, what an adrenaline pump. I couldn't be any happier. Come here to Nebraska and make a great shot on a great buck. Looking forward to taking this one home. It's gonna eat well. I'm just on cloud 9.
And back at the ranch, Brad Fenson is sighting in a rifle for his next hunt with his friend Mark Seidlinger.
You know, whenever you're shooting in Nebraska, you have wind to deal with. If it starts off calm in the morning, for sure you're gonna have wind by the afternoon, and that's exactly what we had here. So the way we have our range set up, we sighted in our guns initially at 50 yards because we could get in, down, out of the wind, make sure that our left and right is perfect, and we got those guns dialed in on the dot. We're now back here at 100 yards, and as we're finding out, with the left to right crossing wind, our bullets are drifting to the right, but we don't make an adjustment because we know it's wind play. So that bullet, depending on the gust, is moving anywhere from 1 to 2 inches to the right. But it's actually a great training lesson for when we go deer hunting, because we know if we're dealing with this wind exactly what our bullet's gonna do on a deer hunt.
You know, part of the hunt is the adventure of seeing different country, and this is definitely different. I mean, there's not very many places in the United States like it. And I always tell everyone it's basically beach sand with prairie grass on top. And this time of year we also have sharp-tailed grouse and prairie chickens season, which is open, and pheasant season is open this time of year too. We got great fall turkey hunting. Like the turkeys have really grouped up in the fall when it gets colder, and they're really concentrated, whereas in the spring, you know, they break up. And most of my hunts, rifle and muzzleloader, are 4 days, 5 nights, you know, all your meals, lodging, guiding, transportation. You know, a lot of places you don't even get cell service out here, so it's kind of nice to just get away from things and be out in the middle of nowhere.